All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And we have a fantastic, bunch of panelists here. So thank you for your time today. My name is Ghanshyams Khandelwal, and I know that patience is running out, and a lot of you are outdoors. So if I hope they can come in. But I hope we will have this next 30 minutes or so insightful, if not entertaining. But I leave that to the wit of the panelists, how exciting this could be. So two of them are definitely my very good friends, Bimlesh, and he has been an entrepreneur for many years now, and successfully sold once and then restarted. So I think that would be a fantastic story to hear from you, Bimlesh. Sanjay, again, it's been a fantastic, he's a great friend of ours. And he started this journey more recently in podiatry. Listen to this very carefully. It's podiatry, not pediatrics. That's exactly what he told me. And even doctors confuse between podiatry and pediatrics. So if I could do a bit of advertising for him, it is more about foot care and ankle care. And he's out building a fantastic pan-India brand, and he's on that journey. So it will be great to hear from you, Sanjay. What are your thoughts about growth per se, but sustainable, definitely given the context we have. And Vasanthi, I just looked up on Google, and the first 2-3 pages are just all about you, TEDx speaker, panelist, primetime, speaker on 91.1. And many other things that you've done. So it would be good to get your perspective, having met so many people and listened to many stories, and yourself as well. The trajectory of growth does not have to be always in the context of an organization, but a personality as well. And I think yours is a great read. So would really like to hear from you as well. And Gopi Prasad, you're a consultant. So you would, I'm sure, bring immense perspective through your own dealings with the clients. So great. So if I can hand over maybe in this order, Bimlesh, with you, if you can give a bit of overview of your journey and link up that conversation with sustainable growth, and how do you see things have metamorphed for you over the years, and how things have happened. And if we could do that same thing, with the rest of the panelists as well in that order. Thanks.
I'm the founder CEO of a company called Agway Solutions, and we've been around for the last 6 years. So I started my entrepreneur journey pretty much after spending 15 years in the corporate world, working with a US healthcare company and trying to build a technology to transform lives in India in the healthcare space. So looking back, we built a product in the space of bringing retail pharmacies, which we see around our neighborhoods, bringing them online, connecting them to distributors, patients, and doctors. And that business, we were able to sustain through our self-funded, bootstrapping process. Let's Venture was pretty new at that time. So funding market was very hot at that time, and we had a lot of competitors in that space. And as usual, as any young startup, you're always chasing, it's a chicken and an egg problem. Either you're trying to chase growth or you're trying to manage your cash flows, right? So that was a very, a unique dilemma in terms of trying to figure out, how would you able to manage growth from that per se. Suppose that is where we were able to pivot ourselves and, focus into a digital technology consulting company. And then, we were able to build a fantastic engineering team, and one of our customers, Acquia, hired our entire team. So we've gone through an entire full cycle in the span of 6 years in trying to go through the nuances of how do you start a bootstrapped company, manage its growth, and then go through the process of transition and looking at an, exit type of life cycle.
So if I can just ask a follow-up question, right? So you've gone through one full cycle. So what challenge you faced? Is there any learning? If you have to redo this one more time from start, what would be different?
So we essentially try to be one of these 10x growth companies, right? So our product was a pure internet technology based business, which is what we had imagined when we started the business around. But the reality was we were selling to pharmacies. We were selling to, real mom and pop stores, brick and mortar hardcore stores. So now these stores were not online at all. So we had to invest in a lot of field sales, and digital marketing alone were not bringing us enough leads and inquiries or conversions onto a system. So this was a huge learning to say that on which platform were these customers active for us to discover and then channelize our marketing spend. Once we understood that, the only channel that they were on was on Facebook and on WhatsApp, right? And those were not the way, that wouldn't have been the channel for them to buy a business operating software, right? So that's when our investment into actual field sales started to get in. One of the key learnings was our marketing spend had to be much larger than what we were doing, which is where our competitors were doing it much better than us because they had raised their funds through many other platforms and forums. So those two were our biggest learnings at that time.
Very, very useful. Thanks. Sanjay, what about you? So obviously, what about 2 years or a little less on this new journey with FoodSecure and building up more pan-India presence? Though obviously you've had a much longer stint than that. Would you want to just talk about that?
Sure. Just FoodSecure is a recent venture that we have gone into, but to give a background on the journey and also kind of learnings, I would say, a doctor has always been an entrepreneur traditionally. If you look at most of the doctors, they either get employed by the government or they started their own setups traditionally. Only these days, after the corporates came up, a lot of doctors are getting into employment and other things. But the mindset that we go through in the college when we were studying was always in terms of, okay, now I'm going to get out of the college, start something of my own. So that was always been there. And my first venture, I think one of the co-founders I just met here, Rajat is there. So we started off the first venture of having an integrated approach towards healing itself. So today, even yesterday, when the NMC bill got passed and other things, people were fighting about this system should take predominance, this system of medicine should take predominance kind of a thing. Nobody was thinking about what is the highlights of each system of medicine and what is the best the patient needs. So one of my first venture was to integrate all systems of medicine and kind of provide the best of what each system provides to the patient. Not allowing the patient to figure out, okay, let me try this out, let me try this out, let me try this out kind of a thing. So that was one thing. And the learning there was probably, it was an idea whose time had not come yet. It was laid back in 1998 kind of a thing. And so that didn't go through well. The whole idea and the concept didn't go through well. And then there was a stint of where I was employed in various medical institutes, and then came back in the form of the digitization of healthcare, where we worked on a startup of telemedicine company where we provided healthcare to the masses using telemedicine from the rural to the urban. And there were various learnings on that in terms of growth. There were social aspects that...
Sorry, I've been dejecting. And did you say that the telemedicine bit is already happening?
Yeah, it is happening. So right now that venture is in about 2,000 villages in India, providing about 100,000 consults every month. Is what has been. But the challenges there were unique. It's easy to sit on this side of the say that I have a product, I'm going and implementing it in the village, and the village people are going to get excited by it. But it didn't. The social challenges and the cultural challenges were pretty huge there in terms of just a simple example. I could list out, and probably the panel discussion time would not be enough. A simple example there was, we said that we are going to set up a clinic typically, when we have a business thing, a shop needs to be in a main road in a village so that the visibility is high. We'll put the nice boards and all those things and have a nurse kind of manage the telemedicine center where she can connect it to a doctor in the city kind of a thing. And we did all that. We invested about 25 clinics in rural Shivgangai district of Tamil Nadu were opened with this concept. We didn't have patients working in there. And we were figuring out what happened. There were other causes. One of the major causes that we saw was the patients were women and children, majorly, who come to the clinic. In the village are women and children. And they didn't want to come to the main road and show themselves that they are unwell to the public around. So they preferred these clinics to be somewhere inside than on the main road. So these are the kind of things only when we hit the road that we start learning, not while sitting in the office and strategizing kind of a thing. So these things was a learning there. Next was when we're looking at the sustainable growth part of it, it was one of the companies called, that I was involved in, where we provided population-based or disease management or population health management, where we looked at managing diabetic population, having a chain of diabetic clinics, pan-India, and managing diabetes through a call center at the back end. The idea was fantastic. We got a good funding for that. We expanded. Rapid expansion, and that is one of the learning that I would say. Just because we got funded, we had people with rapid expansion, we didn't have the bandwidth to manage those clinics, and it failed.
So it failed for a very different reason.
Very different.
Just because you could not manage though the funds were flush and the growth was rapid.
Growth was rapid. We couldn't manage. We didn't have the right talent and the wherewithal to kind of manage that. So, there were different. When we say growth, it has to be kind of.
So this is, this is very, very good point. I mean, we live in the era of Uber growth, and just heard about 10x and things like that. But you give a very different example where you had all the dream components of what an entrepreneur would want, right? I mean, and yet it failed. So where did you find this? I mean, were you stuck in the situation and not able to bail out, or did you have foresight that you will not have the wherewithal and the operational support to take this to the next level of journey?
I would say it was more in terms of the excitement that, okay, we have the funds, there are people wanting for it, there are so many, we have all the statistics, the thing kind of a thing. It was the excitement, okay, we can do it kind of a thing. But just money doesn't solve the issue. There needs to be talent and trained talent, and that where we didn't think of that's going to be a challenge. And only when we hit the road, we started seeing that having a similar, we say McDonald's. We wanted to have a diabetes clinic like a McDonald's where it's going to replicate everything. But that was a huge, huge challenge that we didn't even think of when we put in. So with this kind of background experience that I have, we ventured out into Food Secure. Also, again, looking at what is missing in the market out there in the healthcare industry, what does people need, and also wanting to create a brand of having foot issues being addressed by the right clinical expertise. Today it is not there. As you said, podiatry, when we say, people don't even think of, they ask me, oh, pediatric surgeon. Oh, yes, kind of a thing. So people do not know that they need to go to a podiatrist for their foot and ankle issues, but they still go to an orthopedic surgeon or a physician or a general surgeon kind of a thing. So creating that awareness and is key. Like even here in the venture that I'm looking out right now, awareness is the key, is what I see. If people aren't aware of where to go to for a certain problem, I would again fail.
Yeah, you don't know that you don't know. Yeah. So, fair point. So I think what I hear from what you said is, and at least I see this in your new venture, the SOPs and the processes are very well set, not to fail on that front at least. So very well done. Vasanthi, tell me about your own journey and what growth means to you.
ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರುವಂಥ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಬಯಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಅ ಪೋಲ್ ವಿತ್ ಯೋರ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್.
Sure, please go ahead.
So how many of you, मतलब यहाँ पर हिंदी बोलने वाले कितने लोग हैं? अच्छा, ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡೋರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ? ಅಂದರೆ ಹಿಂದಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋರು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಭಾಷೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯಿತು. ಸೊ ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಮೀಡಿಯಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಷನ್. ಅದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಭಾಷೆ ತಮಿಳ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ಲಾ? ಹಂಗೆ ತೆಲುಗು ఉన్నాರಾ? ಮಲಯಾಳത്തിൻ്റെ ಜನങ്ങളുണ്ടോ? So this was my day job. 10 years back, when FM radio burst on the scene, ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್, ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತೋ ಉಂಟೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ, ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಪ್ರಥಮ ರೇಡಿಯೋ ವಾಹಿನಿ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಚಾನೆಲ್ ರೇಡಿಯೋ ಸಿಟಿ 91.1 ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಆಶ್ರಯ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗಿತ್ತು. ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಇಟ್ ವೆಂಟ್ ಟು ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಲಕ್ನೌ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಚೆನ್ನೈ, ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ, ಸೊ ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸೀನ್ ದಟ್ ಎಫ್ ಎಮ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಮೀಡಿಯಮ್ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮ, ಅದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲಿಟ್ರಲಿ ಬೂಮ್ಡ್. ನೌ ವೈ ಡಿಡ್ this particular option of media explode on the Indian scene while we have had traditionally print media, television media ittu? I will come to that in a bit, and I will hope to not take up much of the panel time, but I want to introduce a great audience like this to a new concept in media. So ಈಗ ನಾನು ಪತ್ರಕರ್ತೆಯಾಗಿ, ರೇಡಿಯೋ ಜಾಕಿಯಾಗಿ, ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ಯಮಿ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಅ ಮೀಡಿಯಾ ಆಂಟ್ರಪ್ರಿನರ್ ವಿತ್ ಮೈ ಓನ್ ಕಂಪನಿ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಪಿಕಲ್ ಜಾರ್. ಈ ಪಿಕಲ್ ಜಾರ್ ಒಂದು ಉಪ್ಪಿನಕಾಯಿ ಜಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ವಿತ್ ವಿಚ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಚರ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಚೇಂಜಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. I started my journey as an electronic student, switched over to the media, and Indian Express ali I was on the news desk, and after which I had a child, so I said, okay, let me move to a thing which has got leisure weekend and not the busy life of a journalist. And that, by accident, I landed up in a radio station. They had called me as a guest to speak about women in journalism, and I landed up being hired as the voice of the primetime breakfast show.
You did a good job.
Yeah, of course. Imagine being paid to say, good morning, Bangalore City. And imagine being paid to, thank you. Imagine being paid to play music. Andre idanne ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸವಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. And then, of course, I went on to NDTV as a news correspondent and did some work with BBC World News. However, to cut a long story short, to answer your question, what does growth mean to me? Personally, I have shared with all of you, Patrakarte, electronic media, then to be an entrepreneur with Pickle Jar. But the game changer for me was in 2018, when our state of Karnataka went for assembly elections. So till such time I had taken a break from NDTV, I said, okay, let me do my own thing. Because in the world of breaking news, you just sometimes, land up breaking yourself. Because you're traveling, the timings are so odd, and all that happens. But I just thought that 2018, ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯವನ್ನ the mainstream media ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ cover ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, can I change the narrative? Can it really mean about the people in the grassroots? And that is why I went on a yatre in Karnataka's 11 districts. And I called it, ekindre nanna company hesaru Pickle Jar. So I said Pickle Jar Poll Express. And we wanted to really have elections not from studio air conditioned where some people are sitting inside some boxes and telling the nation should know. You see, I wanted the nation to know what the Aam Aadmi and Aurat wants the nation to know, not the netas and the so-called experts. And so this exercise led me to a fantastic and extraordinary journey, which I also did now for the Lok Sabha elections. A 3,000-kilometer journey, 18 days in a self-driven car with me and a camera colleague, talking through 10 districts of 3 states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, reporting. Though I was basically an English language reporter, but extremely fortunate to have done reporting in Tamil and Kannada and English and my broken Malayalam and some Dakshin Bharat ka jo chitra vishleshan on NDTV India on the counting day. So this has been a growth. And therefore, in Pickle Jar, we want to, and this is the business model, the revenue model that we also see. We are a team of 18 people at the moment. And we want to now take the people who have been giving us good...
And this has been in 2 years, last 2 years.
Well, yes. The first, though I founded in 2016, Pickle Jar came with a film festival curating platform. So now Smita Patil our Nenappinalli, we did a retrospective, then Rishikesh Mukherjee avardu, and a mix of Kannada and Tamil and all these multi-language film festival we did, because I believe that only business, only economy is not just enough. All of us have a social dimension. ಒಂದು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಒಂದು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದೆ, and only then is India really complete. There are just so many issues around us. Yes. When we clear the issues, we become better businessmen, businesswomen.
Yeah,
so
and this, I want to just add one point, and I'm very glad that you raised about a whole different sustainability to growth, and obviously that's one thing that the audience here may not be expecting. They are all businessmen and thinking about growth in terms of dollars and INR. But I think we need to give it a flip, more about sustainability per se as well, right? I mean, what is it that we are, footprints that we are leaving behind? It comes at what cost to the generations to come, our granddaughters and grandsons? What do we leave? And that is still a business. But, right, it may not be a great business because you created a lot of mud behind. And so what's your take on that, considering you just spoke a little bit about, that aspect?
Yeah, so, Ghanshyam, you see, the thing is that we have... In Pickle Jar, we have made it our aim and vision to capture conversations of social relevance. Now, it can be about business people. When somebody invited me, and actually I said, okay, among business people, what am I going to say? Then the person said, no, because your storytelling is always included business andre adar jotege, what is it, the sustainability angle. And trust me, idu bere vishaya alve alla. Now Bangalore is having a plastic, it has always had a plastic ban, but iga implementation barta ide. Even businesses are finding new ways to do that while making sure that parisara, paryavarani, all this is good. Now how is that? Why is it happening? Because there is profitability even if you do sustainable business. We should change our mindset that profit only means at the cost of cutting trees or at the cost of reckless plastic use. Hogovaga on chila togon hogi, the kind of things that we buy, or even minimizing the use of this kind of a single-use resource within our own businesses. I know so many people. I've been in SME forum. I have been also part, get invited to places where they say, Vasanthi, this is what we have done in our own things. So Adana, and even I think Swachh Bharat and all these things from a national push means to say that you grow, you do great things to your GDP, but you do ethically.
Yes.
And we can be an example to the world. Sanna business over nammalli en budget ide anta ankolod beda. How we can do that is through innovation.
Yes.
And growth. And so one last point I want to make, which is that nimmalli eshtu jana have you heard of the word andre audio, TV, radio, adella all of you use that, you use WhatsApp, this thing. Have you heard of the word podcast? Podcast. Excellent. That means great news for my team, actually. Because we are moving into creating podcasts, which will be, andre Pickle Jar podcast, antane you'll be able to download it in some time. But this is exactly what we want to do. Quick statistics on this. By 2020, they're expected to be 1 billion users of a phone in India, of which, a huge chunk is smartphone users. Yeah. But out of every 10 smartphone users, 9 out of them are expected to access regional content. And for me, that is important.
Yes.
That is growth. That even, I'm associated with the tribal radio station in Chhattisgarh. I sometimes go and train rural journalists because that's an area of my interest. And I feel we have also done something called the Dignity Project, which we are working on, where ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾತಾಡೋಕೆ ಬರೋಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೇಬಾರ್ದು. You go to Japan, who's speaking in English? They all speak in the regional language and they take pride in that. Which is why I really believe, and for me the growth story will come for Pickle Jar from 2 sources. One is podcast, because audio you can listen to even while you're doing other work, and it is poised for some really, really good growth in India, particularly when bandwidth opens up like in the US. And the growth has to come from regional languages. Namma bhashe, namma pride and dignity.
fully agree with that. And I must also, I think you moved on to other points very quickly. But I noticed the word ethically. I think it is extremely important. I'm glad you use that in your diction. And I think sustainability. So there is enough data there, and Howard study says that actually your growth and revenue increases by about 12% more if you are careful about the sustainability around you, and obviously the ethics comes into that as well. So
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, not very far from where we are sitting, Mavallipura and Iga, of course, there are a few other places which used to be fertile villages. I have seen it as a patrakarte, having done stories from there. Now, those places get minimum 3,500 kilos of waste from our city. Meaning to say, now, of course, we are we are doing great things. We have IT businesses and huge technologies. But do we have the right to pollute, to make sure, to see that this thing? So now, EGA, as we are speaking, BBMP kade, a very important charche is going on with citizen groups, saying that can you manage waste within our own apartments, within our own communities, and make sure that this doesn't even go. What gives us the hakku to actually do this to villages around us? Because they are not participating in our growth story.
correct.
We are saying profit, and we are saying this. And I'm sorry to say, even when events like, you have this thing, earlier, 15, 20 years back, we used to get our own simple glasses.
Yes.
And even now I've carried my steel water bottle because the moment it comes into our heads that num in the minimum there should be waste that's going outside, even if it goes, can we manage it? That is a starting point. And of course, effluents, we all know Namami Gange project of the government. Now, rather than blaming the government or expecting it to only do while we say, okay, we are business people and we are this thing, I think we need to just change our own mindsets and talk within our own communities. And that is the ethical growth that I am talking to. World over, and this will become essential in business because there are now world standards. Even garment industry, which used to exploit and child labor and women and all that thing, are now compelled to look at it because business cannot be divorced from social ethical issues. And the sooner we learn it, the better it is for our country, the better it is for ourselves. And we can enjoy it. The moment our conscience is clear, you can enjoy all your wealth.
No, you're right. And government now mandates that compulsory contribution as well. So there you go. Thank you. Gopi Prasad, would you? Yeah, thank you. Would you want to talk about your own experience as a consultant and what kind of advice you think you would give to the SME community here, the entrepreneurs sitting here? I'm sure you have a bunch of template stories as well that you've learned from the experiences that you've had talking with your clientele. But what is most relevant from a growth perspective, a sustainable growth perspective to this audience?
Well, just to give a brief introduction as other speakers, my journey started 1996 in a very humble way as a manager for Sahara Group in Way South in Tamil Nadu. 10 years I spent in India, and my last position was with MedLife, heading alternate distribution channel for Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Then I moved to Germany and spent 10 years there. Now after these 20 years of career, what I learned about what things work in India and what things work in Germany and what things work putting India and Germany together. This has been my topic. Coming to your point and sustainability as precisely, if a business adopts sustainability in its thinking, in its design, in its delivery, in all its aspects, the results can be as magical as today's dabbawalas. Despite technology hitting the heights, the traditional dabbawalas in Mumbai are still going on with their business. If sustainability is not adopted, then it can be as tragic as the recent incident in Karnataka. So sustainability is very crucial. World over, most of the universities are working in this topic. PhDs and postdoctoral research are going on in this topic. And there are other aspects which are periphery to sustainability or innovation. And my colleague in Hamburg, in Germany, in Hamburg University of Technology, is working on a topic called frugal innovation. Now, frugal was never considered as a dignified word, but the innovation attached with a word called frugal, and the lead is being taken from India.
Is this akin to Jugaad?
Yeah, yeah, we call it Jugaad and frugal innovation. The difference between Jugaad and frugal innovation is there is a lot of process and scientific approach in doing things in a very frugal way. Tata Nano is an example that is widely quoted in Germany. Germany, as you may know, is known for auto manufacturing, and there are best of the best cars, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Audi, Volkswagen, all of them are from Germany. And when somebody said to them that in 2,000 euros, an Indian car manufacturer has manufactured a car to the public, and they were all, wondering about how this was possible, how they could be able to actually think of making a car for 2,000 euros, first of all, and how they could successfully do it. So frugal innovation is one of the topics which is very relevant in terms of product innovation at the very business idea itself. And all through the journey of conducting your business, sustainability is of high importance, particularly in today's very unsustainable global order. We have seen global financial crisis in 2008 and 9 with US. People never thought real estate will fall down, and that has created a global slowdown actually. So times are completely uncertain. Stretching beyond what we can actually sustain is almost kind of a devastating.
Yeah. And I think, back to your Jugaad bit, if I could just take that one step further, I think this also helps, continued momentum and growth quite a bit, and as Dr. Sanjay mentioned that, they could not really keep pace with, or rather, the fast train really slammed into something. And I think this is where the concept of agility and fail fast comes in as well. Where you take, small steps, so that you can ring fence just in case if that does not fail, or if it fails, then you can recalibrate and restart rather than losing everything. It should not be binary, that lose all or win all kind of thing, right? So Jugaad coupled with agility and fail fast is growth momentum mantra?
Absolute. And Germany is learning from India in this context. I mean, I'm proud to say that यहाँ पे जितने भी हमारे भाई लोग जो इंडस्ट्रीज चला रहे हैं, और यहाँ पे एक है मल्टीटास्किंग and flexibility with respect to timing and accommodating new issues or initiatives. ये जो चीज़ें हैं ये जर्मनी में नहीं मिलता. और जर्मनी से हम क्या सीख सकते हैं कि उनका जो एक सिस्टमेटिक अप्रोच होता है स्टार्टिंग से लेके एंडिंग तक, यानी कि वो ये भी पहले ही सोचते हैं कि हम दोनों लोग मिलके अभी बिज़नेस शुरू करने वाले हैं, अगर कुछ नहीं बनता तो हम बिछड़ कैसे जाएंगे, उसका भी एक स्ट्रेटजी अभी से लिख लेंगे. सो दिस इज़ हाउ दे थिंक फ्रॉम द वेरी बिगिनिंग टिल द एंड. एंड देयर इज़ अनदर कॉल्ड family owned businesses. Now Germany, just to give you little statistics, 80% of the economy of Germany is driven by small medium sized companies. 80% of those small medium sized companies are run by families. There are third generation family owned businesses which are very successfully running in Germany as on today, and there are institutions set up to do research in terms of how families can be sustainable and successful in continuing their tradition as well as their technology and business in the market.
Sure. Thank you. I have more questions, but maybe I can throw it back to the audience, and if you guys have more pertinent questions than me, I'm happy to give that chance back to you. Any questions from the audience to the panelist? Can we pass on a mic, please?
Entrepreneurs and people who have not started their career at all, What is your advice and what is the chances of collaborating or ideating with the companies in Germany, particularly small and medium scale industrialists?
That's for you.
A big red carpet for startups, new ideas. Every state has startup conference. Hamburg has Hamburg startup initiatives. Berlin has Berlin startup initiatives. So the governments are also kind of paving the way for new ideas to emerge. And they're also creating an ecosystem to facilitate those ideas to turn into a commercially successful models. Now, coming to the question that you asked, is there a kind of possibility for co-working or collaboration with such kind of counterparts between India and Germany? Absolutely yes, very much possible. And particularly with the technology, internet and various other internet-related innovations that have happened, this has become much easily doable. The financial institutions in Germany, in European Union, are also positive and kind of encouraging the German companies to collaborate with third world countries, particularly India in this case, and they are not directly funding such initiatives. I mean, the Indian companies will not get this funding from Europe into their bank account, but when a German company and an Indian company, or a German innovator or an Indian innovator, or a German startup and an Indian startup are together thinking or together working, the money is flowing through the German counterpart into this whole venture, which is indirectly benefiting the Indian counterpart also. So I'm just giving you how serious the Germany and Europe are with respect to opening doors, extending cooperation, accepting relationships, business relationships with countries like India. What is necessary at this point in time now to mark how do you from here think of the first steps would be like to go on a very open-minded tour or a kind of an industrial tour and just go and see, instead of spending more time on Eiffel Tower, you could go to a couple of industries that are surrounding there and see how they are doing things, how they are working through those, what are the cultural parities that we have or differences we have. This will give us individually some way forward in terms of setting up some collaborations. My company at this stage, although I'm not kind of advertising rather than trying to just speak to the point here, is that Gloman, the tagline is globalize at ease. The vision with which I started this company in the 2010 was to facilitate the Indian companies collaborate with German companies. And the journey from 2010 and today we are in 2019, in less than 10 years, we have created a campaign and conducted conferences called Indo-German Business Collaboration through risk-sharing partnerships, and we have done it in Hamburg, Frankfurt and Munich. And we have 145 German companies, small, medium size, who have showed interest, registered to these conferences just the way you have registered and now sitting here in this conference. And they are ready to talk to their counterparts from India. So I would really welcome through your esteemed organizations to open up a channel of communication, and I would love to facilitate that communication and link you up with those. I may not be able to disclose the names of those companies or contacts because of the GDPR. There is a strict data protection regulations that European Union has recently passed. At a point when two counterparts have agreed to collaborate or contact, then we can open up the communications and contact details with each of you, and you could go further from there. I hope I answered you.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panel.
Do we have time?
Actually, it's a time to...
No, for to conclude, yes.
Any last questions from the audience? We'll take
journey, just someone to start, and it's going to be very hard to think about what sustainable business. I want to grow my business, then think about. Do you have any insights into where's the inflection point that we can start as individuals or entrepreneurs to get into the sustainable part of the growth?
Who wants to take that?
I think I'll borrow some answers from my fellow panelists as well with what they spoke, and I'll share a little insight of what we did, right? the point which Mr. Gopi made, that how the Germans think and the way they proceed, any aspect of work that they do, it's all in the mindset, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a young company or a 10-year-old company. Sustainability, especially today, in this particular year in Bangalore, where we are facing huge challenges of water, right? The whole idea of conservation and sustainability has to start from each individual with what you do. For example, today I work in I consult out of a co-working space, and it's literally blood of tears in my eyes that I see that the output of the RO water just goes down the drain, right? It's because of the mindset. The same RO has been existing for several years, but none of us paid attention to it. So as a young company, if every individual is brought awareness on how this water can be reused, it has an effect to your procurement charges of water that you consume, right? If you are rented out in a building, just have a conversation with the owner of that building. Is the property rainwater harvesting? That's your bit to add to what you can do to sustainability. You're procuring a lot of beverages in your office. What is the cups that you use in your office? If you're using paper cups, get rid of it. Encourage people to bring their own cups, wash their cups and reuse them. This brings in a very different attitude with your people, that they take responsibility of their actions, which shows in their work as well. To do these things, it doesn't matter whether you're a day one company or 10-year-old company. It's a shift in mindset that each one of us play our part in the way we conduct ourselves every day.
I'll just take this a bit tangential. I'll just take this a bit tangential here. When we say sustainability, what comes to me is being relevant to the customer, being relevant to the culture that we are in, and being relevant to the surroundings that we are in. That might change. So you might be a 10-year-old company doing something else, but today the culture has changed, today the environment has changed, and the customers have changed. And is your business, is whatever you are doing, is relevant to today's needs of the customer, today's needs of the environment and culture. It includes environment also. Is your business kind of taking care of the water? Is your business taking care of the people around you? Is it relevant for today? Is what I would say sustainability mean. And second thing that I would want to say is, we're talking about sustainable businesses. If the businesses has to be sustainable, your health has to be sustainable. Have you been looking at your own health and your teams and your employees' health in the present context of what is happening? A 40-year-old, sorry, this is a fear kind of a thing, but a 40-year-old can get an MI or a heart attack and kind of a thing, and what happens to the business around him that he has built at that point of time. So there are challenges at your own self. It's not about just the community or the environment. Have you taken care of yourself so that you can build the sustainable business around you?
This is a brilliant point, Dr. Sanjay. And I think, I was in HSBC, my last employment before I started venturing on my own, and I'll borrow some, bits from there. And this is where my mindset exploded as well in a very positive direction. You need to focus on well-being, and well-being is really mental, physical, and financial. And while we focus a lot on financial well-being, I think there is very little attention that people pay to the mental and physical part of it. And while you are discussing a 200 crores project today, and tomorrow you have a heart attack and you are done. So, point well taken. Vasanthi, any last points from you?
Nothing at all. ಈಗ ತಾನೇ ಪೋಸ್ಟರ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಅದು ಹೊರಟೋಯ್ತು. ಆ ಪೋಸ್ಟರಲ್ಲೇ I'm holding a steel cup. It was essentially to have a campaign that madvegalalli, in the parties that we have, everything right from this thing to even to the paper cup, by the way, is not sustainable. I think we should just go back to our own lota, tatte, spoon, which we all grew up with, and that's really the way to go. And the poster says it all. I don't want to take further time. The next speakers have to come. Thank you so much for this avkasha. Dhanyavada.
Just add one last point, answering to your point, is sustainability has two dimensions. One is from the business plan to yourself, with your resources, with your capabilities, with your limitations, and with your strengths. The other dimension is with the market. Kodak did not do anything wrong from inside, just that the market changed into a new technology. So,
Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, but fantastic. Can we have a round of applause for the panelists, please?